Okay, so you're out harvesting in the fall and you realize, ooh, my yields aren't that great in some areas, and you figure out, you know, I had some disease in those spots in my field. It doesn't matter what crop we're talking about here. Sure, we've seen Gosses wilt in corn, we've seen sudden death syndrome in soybeans or Phytophthora, we've seen diseases in every crop. But what are we gonna do going into next year to reduce the disease pressure in the field?
Okay, there's a lot of things you can do in the spring, and I think the biggest thing is varietal selection. If you're gonna be planting a crop, you better make sure, hey, I've got a problem with this disease in my fields. I need to have something that's pretty tolerant or resistant to that.
See, and I disagree with Darren 100%. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is crop rotation. Because if I've got Gosses wilt, that doesn't affect soybeans at all. So I can go to soybeans and I'm gonna be just fine.
I understand that, Brian, but you and I both planted continuous corn this year. You had Gosses wilt and I didn't, because I picked a better hybrid. Now let's not.
Now wait a second. So anyway, here's
there's
the whole
no debate on that.
No, on the whole field on Gosses wilt, I was fine, except for where they had some left in the planter from the previous
that was
field.
Worse.
That
was worse than the rest of your farm.
But anyway, that's the whole thing. If you don't pick the right variety in the spring, you're in tough shape if you already have that disease pressure out there. So let's talk about what can we do this fall to reduce disease pressure going into next spring.
One of the things you can do is bury that residue or do some tillage. I made a comment earlier that we're on my great-grandfather's farm. Well, my grandpa used to say, you know what, I got a problem with this, let's bury it. Get the plow out. We'll go down about 12 inches. We'll bury that stuff. We won't have to deal with it again. And you know, you can do that kind of thing. You can bury residue. It will reduce the disease pressure. It won't completely eliminate it.
Here's the whole problem though. We've got some rolling hills on our farm, and if we do full all-out tillage, we know we're gonna have more erosion. So there's a trade-off there. If you want to have less disease pressure, you have to do the tillage. If you want to have less erosion, you should not do the tillage. So then we're back to what are you going to do in the spring? But there are a couple other things that I guess we could talk about for this fall. One of those is weed control. Gosses wilt. A lot of these diseases that we talk about, they aren't just in the crops. They can also be hosted by certain weeds. So if you have great weed control, if you're using your herbicides properly, or just having great weed control however you do it, that's a good thing. We're lucky in the northern part of the country because the cold weather kills our weeds. If you're in the southern part of the country, you might need to use a few extra spraying applications out there to get that job done. But one way or the other, you should look at weed control and also maybe consider tiling or improving your drainage.
Hey, let me finish up on that weed control thing, Brian, because with corn, it's a grass crop. So the grass weeds are the important ones. So make sure you're using a pre and doing a good job controlling grasses. Now, the other thing you mentioned there, tiling, this one is so important. We've got a lot of guys that say, you know, that low area, I had more stalk rot issues and I had more disease issues down there. Yeah, you did, because there was water sitting there and the plant was sitting there with wet feet. I mean, you stand with water up to your knees for a few months in the summer and then see how long it takes you to get sick.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, if you have a healthy plant, it's going to be a lot more tolerant to diseases. It's just like for you and me. If you're exercising and eating right and you're healthy in general, you can withstand the common cold much better than a person who, let's say, already has some kind of disease. It's the exact same thing in your crop. So just do everything you can to make sure that crop is growing healthy, and it all starts with having good drainage in the field.
When you're looking at crops that are grass crops like corn or wheat, you've got to control those grass weeds out there because they could cause some problems for you. However, our weed of the week is not a grass. I realize this is a little tricky one. We'll show you what it is coming up after this.